All right, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lit in English. And this week we are doing something very special. We are circling back to the new season. If you can see it that way, we are back to the six barriers. And since we have the new season, it is going to be like a program, and this program will likely to take a much longer time because we are going to do one episode every week now rather than every single day like last time. So thank you very, very much for joining us today, marking the beginning of a new season. And personally, I am very excited about this new season because I feel like I understanding the material much better thanks to you. Thanks for your presence and your joining us and this, I guess you can say, inner peace revolution. All right, so let's get right into it. And like usual, I would like to invite you to grab a pen and paper so that we can draw along the way and learn this together. All right. So, what is the inner world or the inner self, or some might say the inner mind? All right. So, if you can imagine, the inner mind is kind of like a stick figure here on the top left. All right. So, the inner mind is within us, and we tend to have a lot of barrier stopping it from expanding. You can see it's like the sixth sense. And if you really think about it, we have the five senses, and we use our five senses to navigate the world. We relying on just our five senses, it is very limited. Therefore, when we can activate our sixth sense, we have a much deeper and broad way of viewing the world. And this is that journey, the journey to explore your inner self. And thanks to my mentor, my teacher, and from many, many wise men that have taught us, there are six types of barrier that we need to break through. And I am going to draw barrier around this stick figure here. And each of the color that I use is a representation of each of those barrier. And the purpose of today's presentation is to figure out how we can break through the sixth barrier so that we can unlock our sixth sense. And it is going to be very, very, very powerful. So that will be five, and we'll need one more color. And let's see, orange. So when you look at this picture, I want you to imagine an egg, because you see how This barrier is look like the shape of an egg. So if you can imagine an egg, a chicken egg, if we were to make impact from the outside in, if the impact is from the outside in, that would mean we are about to use it as food. However, if if the force is coming from the inside out, as in this stick figure created some sort of force trying to break through this barrier, then that will get life because that is how the chicken break through the shell in order to have life. Okay. So similarly, if we don't break through the barrier consciously to give our inner self life, then the world will break us. Generally, people tend to change after they experience suffering in life, and some do not. Okay. And for those who did not make that change, then they experience the worst kind of suffering. The worst kind of suffering will come for them. And if they still do not change after that, then we observe losses. And if losses still cannot get them to change, then greater losses will occur. So the lesson here is, why do we have to wait for pain, for suffering and losses to motivate us to change? Why can we why can't we just love ourselves and respect ourselves and make the conscious decision to break through the barrier to give the life to our inner self? All right. So this is the reason we really, really need to understand our inner self to elevate our wisdom. Because a person who has a clear understanding of one's inner self, they will have a breakthrough and they will grow bigger, larger than life. So this through this journey here, you will experience a type of transformation, transformation. If the stick figure person can break through, then the body will becoming bigger, maybe even a bigger belly button, very happy, happy face, and have a bigger arm and a bigger leg. And over time, he or she might even grow some hair. All right. So in order to do this, we need to understand what the 6 barriers are. All right. So the first barrier is, this is called limiting belief. Limiting belief. So there are many, many limiting beliefs that we can have. And when we discuss inner self, the very first barrier that you can think of right away is that there is no inner self, right? You might think that I am speaking nonsense, or even if you believe me, you might not necessarily have the courage to break through your limiting belief. Now, in order to actually have a limiting belief, kind of have you kind of initially have to have that belief first. All right. So for my example, when I was younger, I had the thought that I can be a great student. When I was younger, my brother he was amazing. He's on way uh have like the best grade. He is at the top of his class, but I wasn't. I was only just an average student in all of my classes. And I had thought to myself that, you know what, I can be just like my brother. And the funny thing is, the second that I thought of that, instantly I started to have a limiting belief. I started to doubt myself. I might think, or I actually thought that I wasn't smart. I wasn't able to study as hard as my brother did. And that, my friends, that is just an example of many, many examples out there. But lucky for me, when I was 18 years old, I got to uh, I got to meet a very successful entrepreneur. She is one of the most successful business women in my city, and she told me one thing that I still remember until this day. She told me that if other people can do it, then I can do it as well. And what she was talking about is the ability to start a business. Because at that time, she was a successful business owner. Beside her retail stores, she also owned many, many real estate. And she told me about her story of wanting to open a retail store. And at that time, many of the friends of her already started a business and they started to make money. And she wanted to be able to do what they did. And she had a strong belief that if they can do it, so can her. Okay. And that is an example of breaking through the limiting belief. And let me tell you, I has been studying this barrier for the past 20 years because I truly desire success. I didn't want to just have a retail store like the successful friend that I told you about. I wanted to start $1 million company, even $1 billion company. And I started to read successful story about how people was able to make it from nothing. And I realized that all of them have such a big dream that limiting beliefs not exist to them. Okay. But to keep it simple, I want you to remember the advice that my friend told me when I was 15 years old. If other people can do it, you can do it too. If other people can go to school and earn a college degree, of course you can do it. If other people can start a successful business, you can do it too. Whatever other people can do, you can do the same. And if you could just have that belief, then congratulations, because that is what it takes to break through the very first barrier, which is limiting belief. And limiting belief is extremely, extremely important because it will help you break through another layer of barrier. So I would like to invite you to write down the word fear of failure as well. That will be the second barrier. Fear of failure. So most of us, before we even start doing anything, we have the fear, and that is the fear of failure, something that anyone can relate to. So, for example, about like me doing well in school, I have a limiting belief because I have a fear of failure. I fear that I don't have what it takes to study harder. I have a fear of failure that I might not be smart enough. And even when I try to give it a chance, to break through, to show people that I don't have fear of failure, then I would face another barrier. Right. So this is a journey, everyone. And I want you to be aware of all of this failure so that you know what you are dealing with, so you can be prepared. The third barrier is called the fear of judgment. Right. And using the same example about me trying to do well in school, as soon as I break through the fear of failure, deciding that I'm going to take action, then I started to have the fear of judgment. So what does it mean when I mentioned the fear of judgment? If I were to study in too much, then I wouldn't have enough time to study with. I mean, if I was to spend too much time studying, then I don't have enough time to play with my friends, and they might make fun of me, and that's actually happened. All right. But if I were to spend less time on studying, and let's say spend time away with my friend to study together, I may have the fear of judgment from, let's say, other friends, or maybe even my parents, because they might not believe that I was studying, and they might be right. You see, because when I spend time with my friend, then oftentimes we get distracted and we don't study the way that we're supposed to. So breaking one barrier to meet another is tough. But once we realize the challenge, then we will be able to be prepared to break through all of this barrier in order to reach a realization of our inner self. So we do have three more that I would like to go over next. The next one, number 4, this is lack of prerequisite. Requisite. So this might sound like a very big word, but all of it means is that you're afraid that you don't have what it takes in order to start something. So, for example, using the same example of me trying to do well in school, I might have the fear that I don't have what it takes to do well in school. Maybe I don't have enough time to study. Maybe I have the fear that I don't have enough foundation to build on top of what I already know. Or maybe I feel like I just couldn't afford to go study after school, like after hour. So many things could happen here. A better example would be, let's say you want to start a business, and you know that in order to start a business, you have to have many things in place. And one of those would be, do you have enough money? Do you have a business plan? Do you have a vision of where you want to take your company to? So most people, when they sit down and they look at the thing that they do not have, they have the fear of lack of prerequisite. But interestingly enough, once they have enough everything they need to start that project, they ended up not doing it, right? And that is a real thing. So if you were to have a lack of prerequisite, that might be a sign to show you that you needed to do it. And I understood this deeply the day that I was able to swim 2 kilometers. Right, in the past, I thought it was impossible. I could in the past I couldn't swim 100 meter before I ran out of breath, and I thought it was impossible. I thought that I didn't have the strength needed. I didn't think that my technique was good enough. But because of that fact, I worked really hard. I went to the gym like 3 times a week to swim, and I swim like 1 kilometer every single day in preparation for that kilometer. And the day of the challenge, actually a couple of days prior to the challenge, I made up my mind that, you know what, I have prepared enough. I have what it takes. And prior to the event, I am going to swim 2 kilometer. And I actually was able to achieve that. Now, the second, the second that I was able to accomplish that, I didn't want to do it anymore. I would only swim 500 meter and then I give up. I would swim 1 kilometer and then I didn't want to do the 2 kilometer. And I thought to myself, that was really strange because if I were able to do it once, I should be able to do it again. Therefore, I make up my mind, I make up my mind that I'm going to swim 4 kilometer on the day of the event because that is motivation. Because I feel like because I already have what it takes to swim 2 kilometer, I might not have what it takes for to swim 4 kilometer and I make it into a challenge because of the lack of prerequisite. It actually worked in my favor, and I was able to swim 4 kilometer for the 2 kilometer event. Right. So barrier, if you can have barrier, it's kind of help you in a way to have the strength needed to break through it. Just like the example of the egg earlier. You see, if the impact coming from the outside in, that means the egg will become food. But if you can push it from the inside out, it will create life. So the existence of the barrier itself is an opportunity for your inner cell to grow. Right. And another barrier that's similar to number four is the lack of knowledge. So lack of knowledge is the fear that you don't have enough information in order to become successful. And again, using the example of 2 kilometer swim, I really didn't have the knowledge needed and I had to look for it. And because of that, often people stop getting to the goal that they needed. And thank you, Yongdin, for interact on the chat here. Yongdin said that I can live without food and water for 3 days and no food in the next 6 days with belief only. So that's just like 6 days without food, but you probably still need to have some water. So I can see what you're saying. But yeah, there are barrier, normal people, they wouldn't be able to do that. They would have their limiting belief that they wouldn't be able to do it. They would have the fear of failure, especially when it hits like day 3. And then they may have the fear of judgment and they might not think of that they have what it takes to do it. Or they might feel that they don't have enough knowledge to do it. And I can very much relate it to your comment there because I have tried to do a 2 weeks fast. So in those 2 weeks, I don't eat. I can drink, but I truly don't really eat. I eat very, very little. I only allow myself to eat the equivalent of one avocado a day. And in that 2 weeks, I was able to lose about 20 pounds, which is the equivalent of almost 10 kilograms in the metric system. But anyway, thanks for sharing. And the last barrier, the last one, which also the most important one, is the lack of vision. Right. So there's the connection between all 6 of this barrier. And the most important one I would say is the lack of vision. See if you can circle back to the limiting belief that I mentioned earlier. When we wanted to do something, it means that you had the vision of it for a very brief moment. Okay. So imagine that you want to make a lot of money. For example, let's say you want to be a millionaire. All right. And when I say millionaire, I am talking about the $1 million, 1 million US dollar or more, which is the equivalent of 25 billion Vietnam dong or more. Okay, so imagine that is your goal. That is what you wanted. You can start to have a vision of having $1 million in your bank. All right. It's feel pretty good, right? And now I want you to bring yourself back to reality. And I want to ask you a question, a very serious question. Do you really think if you can be a millionaire? Do you really, really think that you can make $1 million? All right. I don't know about you, but to be very, very honest, if I were to put myself in that situation, the second that I look at my reality, and I can tell you right away that I can start to see the barrier, I can start to feel the barrier. And if I were to using the sixth barrier as a reference, the limiting belief started to form. Okay. Because I was like, how can I make that $1 million? Because in order to make $1 million, I needed to make at least $200,000 a month in order to get it to make it a year's. And right away, I started to see failure. I started to have the fear of failure because I don't know how I get it there. I don't have the right vision. The vision is not clear yet. And then of course I have the fear of judgment. I might well, this actually happened when I tell people that I wanted to be a millionaire. My friend was laughing at me back then, back when I was in my 20s, because they themselves had limiting belief. They didn't think it was possible for them. Therefore, they didn't think it was possible for me. All right. And eventually my $1 million dream gets shattered. And I started to have lack of prerequisite. I don't have what it takes to make that kind of money. And then I am afraid I don't have the knowledge to get there. So it all tied to the limiting belief number six, that is the lack of vision. Now, let's start imagine a different scenario. But this time, I want you to truly, truly believe that you can be a millionaire. All right. I want you to focus on the vision of being a millionaire. But this time, I want you to think about a friend that you have who is a millionaire. And if you don't have that friend, it's okay. What about famous people? The billionaire that you know of, even if you only know about that billionaire on TV. Okay. Now imagine if you are that person. So in my case, I imagine that I am the owner of Vingroup, a billionaire, and I can see my empire of Vingroup started to have factory in the US, started to have shop here in the US, and making $1 billion in this market using the many successful companies that I already have. It is simple to make that $1 million. In fact, $1 million is too simple if you have all of that resources. All right. So if I can do that, if I can imagine that, the vision that I have about the $1 million is now very, very simple. So just one right vision. With the right vision, you will be able to break through the remaining barrier. And once again, the key point here is vision. And I would like to demonstrate that with you with a story. So the story is about breaking through belief. And the story is about a man named Roger Bannister. And this is a very, very famous story that has been told all around the world. And the story is about a young man that was able to do the thing that the entire world thought that it was impossible. Right? So the story goes back in the 50s, back in even prior to 1950s, people believed that it was impossible for anyone to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. Okay. And because we are talking about vision, I want to explain to you what does it mean to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. So 1 mile would be equal to 1.6 kilometer. And if you can help me imagine the track and field going in a circle in a stadium, right? If you ever watch soccer in Vietnam, or if you ever had an opportunity to go to a university or a local school that have a track and field where people run around the stadium, that is the equivalent of 400 meter. Okay. So in order to run 1 mile under 4 minutes, the athlete had to run 1 minute around that track and field. And they had to do it 4 times. So, and if you, and for me, I have done it personally. So I understand how tough it is. For me, it took me about 4 minutes to run around one of the track, right? So back in the 1950s, people thought it was impossible to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. And the reason that they had that limiting belief, the barrier number one, is because the fastest athlete at that time had tried and he was unable to make it. The world record at that time was 4 minutes and a little bit over a second. And no matter how hard they tried, they just could not break through those limits. And to make the matter worse, the scientists and the doctor got involved and they run different experiments showing the world how the human body structure is not made to run under 4 minutes. So the entire world thought that it was impossible. So here comes the man named Roger Bannister. He is a graduate student from England, and he said that he will be able to do it. So Mr. Roger Bannister, he is an athlete, but he is not a professional athlete. But he just knew that he can do it. He can make it to 1 mile under 4 minutes. Therefore, Mr. Roger Bannister started to practicing, and he start exercise and he start running. But one different exercise that Mr. Roger Bannister did that is different compared to other athletes is that each day he imagined in his mind the image or the vision that he is crossing that finish line, like he's crossing the finishing line under the mark of 4 minutes. And he truly believed in it every single day. Every single day he is going back to that vision and he truly believed in it. Then on May 6, 1954, on a cold wet day in Oxford, England, when everybody gathered to an event, to a race, and Mr. Roger Bannister is there. He was only 25 years old back then, and he did the unthinkable. He broke the 4 minute barrier, and he was able to cross that finishing line at 3 minute. 3 minute, 59 second and four. So he barely make it through that 4 minute mark. And on that day, Mr. Roger Bannister was successfully break through all six of his barrier. And he was able to do that because he has the vision and he nurture that vision every single day. Every single day, Mr. Roger Bannister truly believed that he is going to cross that finishing line. And he was able to do it. To Mr. Roger Bannister, there is no limiting belief. That is non-existent. Even though the entire world make fun of him, he doesn't have to fear failure. He doesn't care about what other people said. He stick to his vision. He truly believe in it. And obviously, he didn't have all of the requirement. He doesn't have the prerequisite because he is not an athlete. He doesn't have I would argue that he does the lack of knowledge. He definitely don't have the knowledge of what it takes to run 4 mile under 1 minute. 1 mile under 4 minutes, because all of the experts said it was impossible. People truly believe that there is no way that a person can run 1 mile under 4 minutes. But because of the simple vision that Mr. Roger Bannister had, he broke through all of this limitation. And obviously, lack of vision is not even a question to him. The powerful thing is, okay, the story doesn't end there. There's more to the story. The crazier thing is, a year after Mr. Roger Bannister did the 1 mile under 4 minutes, there are 16 runners in the entire world that was able to break the same record, running 1 mile under 4 minutes. And then 3 years after that, there are hundreds of athletes around the world was able to break that record. And nowadays, thousands and thousands and thousands of people was able to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. In fact, in the event of the Ironman, I heard that there was a person that was able to run 42 kilometers within only about 2 hours something. So that is the equivalent of 4 minutes something per mile, I believe. So not only people was able to break the same record, they did even better than Mr. Roger Bannister. And the question that the entire world asked themselves, or the question that we should ask ourselves, is what happened prior to the event of Mr. Roger Bannister? The 1 mile under 4 minutes, was it impossible in the past and somehow it was possible? Or was it just a limiting belief of the entire world itself? And the answer from a lot of the researcher is that it was always possible. It was always possible to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. But the problem was limiting belief. The problem was that people had lack of vision. Because of the limiting and because of the lack of vision, they had the fear of failure. They have the fear of judgment. They believe in the lack of prerequisite, and they believe in the lack of knowledge. Therefore, in this journey of activating your inner self as this stick figure here, and in order to have your sixth sense transform, right, to create a transformation to a bigger inner self, we need to get familiar with the sixth barrier, and we need to work on our vision. And I has been going through all six of these steps, right? You have to truly believe that it is possible to activate your inner self. It is possible to break through the barrier so that you can free your mind, so that you can activate that sixth sense. And through this transformation, you will be able to accomplish unimaginable things, similar to what Mr. Roger Bannister did, similar to how he was able to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. And since Mr. Roger Bannister, the world has seen wonderful, wonderful things. And another example of that that I like a lot, that I am passionate about, is the story of Bill Gates. So when Bill Gates was very young, in his teenager, Bill Gates had a dream. To be precise, Bill Gates had a vision. Bill Gates had the love for computer, for technology, and Bill Gates had a vision that computer will exist in every single household. And he talked to his teacher, he talked to his professor, and the professor tried to tell him how impossible it is to put computer in every household. And to give you perspective, one computer system back then would cost like millions and millions of dollars. And each of the computer would need the entire living room to put in. Even Bill Gates himself does not have the access to an actual computer. He has to use a machine from his school that connect to the main computer in order to use it. So from the expert point of view, it was impossible to have computer in every single household. Lucky for us, Bill Gates thought differently. He always believed that it was possible. Not only that, Bill Gates had a very clear vision, a crystal clear vision, that not only computer will be in every single household, but in order for that computer to be useful, it needed the software. So Bill Gates went on the journey to build one of the most successful software company in the entire world, and that is Microsoft. And he changed the way that we live. So not only we had computer everywhere, right? And when I am talking about computer, it's not simply just a desktop that I am using. It's not just a laptop that you are using. It's not just a cell phone that you are using. If you were to look at any of the applicant that you use in your household, let's say your refrigerator that has a computer in it as well. If you were to look at your washer and dryer, it has a computer in there. Even your car, your moped, all of it operate using a computer, and it was using a software. So because of the vision that Bill Gates had, he was able to build a very successful company like Microsoft. In turn, Bill Gates became one of the richest men in the world, one of the youngest billionaire in the world. And because of Bill Gates' success story, we started to see many billionaire following Bill Gates' footsteps, like Steve Jobs of Apple, like Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, like Jeff Bezos from Amazon, Elon Musk from PayPal, later started Tesla, SpaceX, and many other, too many to count, hundreds of self-made billionaire was created in their 20s because of one guy named Bill Gates proved to them that it was possible to be a billionaire, right? So the ability to have a vision and stick to it will help you break through all six of the barriers. And the same thing can be said when it's come to the inner self. If you can make the conscious decision to break through these six barriers, you will allow your inner self the opportunity to make that transformation. And imagine if someone like Mr. Roger Bannister can run 1 mile under 4 minutes, if a person like Bill Gates can stick to his vision and become a billionaire in the physical world, what can you possibly do once you can break through the sixth barrier to unlock your inner mind to have that transformation? It will be very powerful. And that is the journey that we are going on. This is the journey of season 5 of Lit in English. And starting this week, I am going to have my presentation every week on Wednesday evening at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is the equivalent of 12 p.m. on Thursday Vietnamese time. So I thank you for joining me for this presentation. And I would like to invite you to join me next week. And of course, you can always interact with me in English. This is an environment for us to practice our English as well as you know, not only listening but speaking and interacting. So when the time is right, I would like to invite you to interact more in presentation like this. But for today, um, I would like to just thank you for joining me, and we can start taking questions for the next presentation. And once again, thank you so much. I couldn't have done this without you. Have a wonderful day for all of my friends in Vietnam, and have a good evening for all of my friends here in the US. All right. Bye bye, everybody.